Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to show you how you can create an authentication flow using ReactQuery. So don't waste time and let's jump in it. I already created the code base for the authentication flow, and in this video I show you the different steps to create a flow, an authentication flow using ReactQuery. So let's start from the sign up phase. Okay, for the sign up, I create a new use sign up hook that it's the owner of this flow. In this hook, you can find a use navigator for redirect the user after the sign up, and a snack bar to handle the error. But the important thing is the mutation. In this case, use mutation is the core concept of these hooks. So using use mutation, we can handle the sign up. The sign up accepts an object with email and password and return a user. The HTTP request is very simple because it's an HTTP post HTTP request to the path API/auth/signup with the post and with the body of the new user. So in this case with email and password, and return the user. The user is an object with the authentication token and email and the ID. So using the use mutation, we can create our mutation using the sign up method to call the sign up request with email and password, and we have to handle two different cases: the on success and the on error. In case the sign up is okay, we can render the user to the home page, so it's able to see the list of to do. Otherwise, we can in this case show a toast with oops, there is an error in the sign up, try again, and so on. It's very simple, but it's the first step to start to handle our authentication flow. So we have to allow the user to sign up in our application. So now it's time to go dive in the next step. The second step is handle the sign-in hooks. So in this case, there is a new user sign-in hooks that is the owner for the sign-in phase. It's very similar to the sign-up hook, and it has a navigator for redirect the user to the next page, and a snack bar for handle the error. The sign-in request is simple. There is a post HTTP request in the path API/auth/sign-in with the body, email and password, and if all is okay, return the user, otherwise raise an error in this case. It's important because using the sign-in, we can allow the user to be authenticated in our application. The sign-in mutation is pretty simple. Is a mutation that accepts an object with email and password and return a user in this case. Also in these hooks, we have to handle two phases: the on success and the on error. If we arrive in the on success method, the sign-in it's okay, and we can navigate in our home page. Otherwise, we can show an error and indicate something to the user. In this case, oops, there is an error on sign-in, try again, and so on. So as you can notice, use sign up and use sign-in are very similar, and they are different only in the HTTP request, but in this case the hooks is very simple and similar in this case. So now it's time to go to the next step. Okay, it's time to see the core concept of our authentication, the use user hooks. Use user hooks is used to get the data of the user. So in this case, using the use query, we can handle the HTTP request to the user. to the user API. And in this case, the API it's very simple. There is a GET request to the path API slash users slash the user ID with the authorization either a bearer token with the access token. The result of the user in this case is the access token for the user and another object called user with the email and the ID. So this is the core concept, and this is the first implementation of our user. But we have to handle a connection between the sign up and sign in, and we'll see this soon. Before moving in the next step, it's important to set the refetch on mount, refetch on Windows Focus, and refetch on reconnect flag to false. This because prevent to call the get user API each time you use the use user in your application, or each time you leave the focus and get the focus again, and when you leave the connection and so on. And the use user return the result of the user, otherwise return null. Pretty simple, but now it's time to go dive to this implementation. Before moving to the browser, I create a protected route for my to-do list view and for the to-do detail view. To do this, I create a protected route. It's a simple component that use the use user hooks and get the user. If you don't have a user, the protected route redirect the user to the auth signing path. In this way, the user is able to sign in the application. Otherwise, show the view, in this case the to-do list and the to-do detail page. Okay, now it's time to see the result in the browser. So I go to the sign up page and, for instance, create a new user called test2.test.com with the password test and call sign up. As you can see, the application show me the sign in page. Now I can try to sign in the application test.com and test sign in, and as you can see, again the application redirect me in the sign in page. The application call the request, as you can see, because there is the sign up in the network of my developer tool, and you can see the email and the password, and the result is an access token with the ID and the email. The same is for the sign in. There is a HTTP request with the sign in with the payload with my email and password, and the request return the response with access token and our email and ID. But we have a problem. If I try to navigate in my to-dos, as you can see, the application redirect me in the sign-in page. This because when the application provide the request, doesn't save the user in the state. So now we have to create a connection between the sign up and sign in to help the user to understand that you are signing in the application and you have a user, and you can go in our to-dos view or in the to-do detail page, for instance. So now it's time to move to implement this short feature to create a better experience for our user. To do this, we have to use the ReactQuery client. To use the ReactQuery client in our hooks, we can use the hook useQuery client, and it's return the instance of our query client. You can import the useQuery client from our tank stack ReactQuery, so it's very simple. And this client permit us to do different stuff with our client. One of this stuff is setQueryData. So in the success method of our sign up, for instance, we can get the data of the result of our sign up. In this case, data is of type user, because the sign up user is a promise of a user. In this case, the data is the result of our mutation in this case. So in this case, the mutation is a sign up, and sign up return a user. In the data, we can have the user. So using query client, we can use the setQueryData, and we can set an object to our, for instance, query. In this case, we want to set the user query with the data received by this sign up. In this case, we can use the same key for the user in this case. So as you can see, query key.user is the same using the sign up. And we can say to ReactQuery, save in the user query this data, in this case our user. This permit to ReactQuery to update the use query result, in this case the use query for our user hooks, and in this case we can share the user with all the application in this case, and each part of the application that need the user will be updated with the new data. We can do the same with the sign-in. So we can import the use query, and we can use the query client. And in the success hooks, we can use the query client to set the user query with the data received by the sign-in in this case. So we can, in this case, we are able to connect our user sign up and use sign in with our user hooks, and we can react and update our user in all the application. So each component that use this data can understand that something is changed and react and show different info and so on. It's important to keep in mind that setQueryData is a synchronous method. So when you call setQueryData, immediately all the query will be updated, and you don't have to handle asynchronous flow. So when you set the data, all the data affected by your setQueryData will be updated immediately. Okay, it's time to see the result in the browser. So we start from sign up, and we can create a new user called test.test.com, and for instance the password is test, and I submit the sign up. As you can see, now the application redirects me in the to-do page. I can go in my sign up, in my sign in, and for instance in this case test2 at test.com, and the password is test. I can use I can handle the sign in, and as you can see, my application now is in the to-do views. But there is another problem. If I refresh the page, as you can see, my application lose the user, and probably this is a problem. So we can now to go in the code and fix this problem using our simple local storage exposed by the browser. To save the data in our local storage, we have to handle three things. First one, we have to create a user local storage to save the data in our local storage in the browser. So we have three methods: save user, that accept the user and save the user in the local storage; a get user, that get the data from the local storage and check if exists, pass the result, otherwise return undefined; and another method that remove the element from the local storage. Then we have to handle two things in our use user. First of all, we have to handle a use effect in the that depend of the user. In this case, when the user query change, these hooks check if it doesn't exist the user, remove the user from the local storage, otherwise save the new user in the local storage. So when we refresh the page, we have our user in the local storage, and we can use it for have a new data for the user. It's important, this part, because it's the connection between the use user and the use sign up hooks and the use sign in hooks. Because when you call the query client .set query data, the use user change the user, but don't call the query HTTP request in this case. So yes, it's change, the user is changed, but we have to save it in our local storage in this case. The second important part is the initial data. This property could be an object or a simple function. In this case, we use the get user to get the user from the local storage, and it's important to understand this part, because when we call for the first time the use user hooks, the application get the user from the local storage, and if exists, then use the result for get the user again from the API, and in this case we update the user query result. The get user, it's a bit strange, because accept user, null or undefined, and return a user or null. The get user check if user doesn't exist, return null, otherwise call the API and refresh the data for the user. So it's a bit tricky, I know, but it's very simple when you understand the flow, handle the user in this way. So you have an initial data that get the data from the storage, and use query use this data to update the user for your session, and then using the use effect you can save or remove the data from the local storage. Simple. Now it's time to see the result in our browser. Okay, let's start from the sign up. So again, test2@test.com, and the same password test, submit, and okay, perfect. I have the user, and probably I save it in my local storage. If I go to application, I can see my access token and the user email and ID. Perfect. So now if I refresh the page, for instance, I already have the user, and I can see the to-do direct without any problem. I can go to Logout, and for instance I can use the sign in this case, test2@test.com, and call test, sign in, submit, and perfect. Again, I have my application storage refreshed, and I can, for instance, refresh the page, and in this case I have already the user saved in the local storage, and I can see directly the to-dos. So I can also do this in another tab, and it's the same. Perfect. Now it's time to see the logout step. To handle the sign out, we have to create a new custom hook. This is a simple custom hook created using a function. In this case, the result is a function that accepts 0 parameter and return a void. The user sign up use a query client, and the use navigator to redirect the user to the sign in page in this case. Using the query client, we can create a on-sign out function that accepts zero parameter and handle the setQueryData to null. In this case, it's important to set null and not undefined, because if you use null, setQueryData set the user to null. But if you pass undefined, setQueryData doesn't nothing. So in this case, you don't have the same result. After that, when you set the query data to null, you have to redirect the user to sign in page in this case. Pretty simple, but now it's time to see the result in the browser. To see the result, we can go in our application, and in the ReactQuery dev tool, we can see the user, in this case is access token with the user data, test, and the ID. And if I click the logout button, as you can notice, the application redirects the user in the auto sign-in page, and the user is updated with null, because we remove the user from our local storage and our React query state. To check the local storage, we can open our DevTool, open the application, and as you can see, there is our user in the local storage. So pretty simple, and now I think you have an idea on the logout in a React query application. Okay, that's all. I hope now you have an idea of how you can create a authentication flow using React query in your React application, and you have understand a new concept like initial data and setQueryData exposed by React query. So I hope you enjoyed this content, and if you like it, please hit the like button below, and if you want to stay updated with my content, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you and see you soon. Bye bye.